Welcome into the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined in by the head coach of the Anniston Bulldogs, Eddie Bullock. We'll recap last week's game against intercounty rival Jacksonville and then look ahead to next week's game, a non-region game against Pell City here on the Bulldog Blitz this weekend. First of all, Coach, your overall thoughts on the game. The final score didn't turn out the way that you wanted to against Jacksonville, but your overall thoughts about the way the game played out and the way your team looked coming out of week 3.
Well, we played a pretty tough game, and of course Jacksonville's a tough team, and it was pretty close game. The score is not indicative of how the game was played, but we kind of, right at the end, we gave up 10 quick points that kind of opened it up for them. So, I was pleased at how hard the guys fought, considering some of the circumstances we had to fight through.
37-14 was the final score, but from what I saw in the highlights when we were producing them and then what the viewers see in just a bit, fight all the way through. And from the first half to the second half, was that a product of what you saw in practice as far as the way the team was built?
Well, yes, it was. We, were situated. We had some guys that were a little bit injured, and then we had a couple of guys that was unable to go throughout the game, and we had to play some ninth graders. But, overall, we were pretty much prepared for them. But, once you have to make those adjustments, it sort of, unleveled the playing field for us, and we had to kind of fight a little bit up here.
This team to me seems like a team that has a lot of grit and a lot of fight to it. Explain what you see on a day in, day out basis.
Well, you got a lot of younger guys. We got about 25 to 30 younger guys, and those guys basically, as far as the fight, sort of set the tone because they won't back down to some of the older guys, and of course the older guys have to continue to fight, unless the younger guys will take over. So, they pretty much fight hard. It's kind of tough keeping them up. When you play a close game, you have to come back and give them something positive, a good reason to keep on fighting.
Jacksonville is now a team that's undefeated. One of the teams that are, like you said at the beginning of the season, not necessarily looked at as one of the favorites, but so far have been building as one of those teams that's been the favorite, one of the favorites in this region. What did you see from Jacksonville? You know them from years past, and then seeing them here on Friday night.
Well, they got a couple of good running backs, and that's the key. If you got some guys, if you can run the football, it tends to open up everything else. And they had 2 good running backs, and they did what they were supposed to do, and that's a number one ingredient for having a good football team is being able to, even though we play a lot of spread teams, and Jacksonville is actually a spread team, but basically when you got guys that can run the football, it creates a lot of other opportunities for you.
Absolutely. Talk about playing those intercounty rivals, being able to get back into this region where you are playing these kind of games.
Well, it's big time, the kids know each other, and of course, the school's not too far from each other, so that's, very big, and, you have pretty good crowds, and that plays a lot into, how the kids react and how they perform out on the field.
Absolutely. First half highlights of the Anniston's game against Jacksonville coming up next right here on the Bulldog Blitz. We'll also talk about the Week 5 game against Pell City. All that and more next. Stay with us. We're back here on the Bulldog Blitz. First half highlights of Anniston's game against Jacksonville. Coach, your first game on the road against Jacksonville. Talk about what you saw here in the first half.
Well, we kind of got out, tried to get out to an early start, but we kind of got out of gap, lost our gap integrity, and we gave up a quick score in the first series. And, the main thing was just calming them down. They scored on us within a couple of minutes, and we started sort of getting it together right here. You could see we had a big tackle for a loss, and that was the main thing. As long as we could keep our guys in position to make plays, we would be fine. But it only takes one mistake. You can play good for 8 plays, and on that 9th play, they can bust one big. Right here, you see L.J. Hurd makes a great run and make some great cuts and get in the open and actually score. And that actually tied the football game up, this particular score. So we knew that we had a chance to get in, Right here you can see we kind of lost gap integrity there, and we just didn't do some of the things that we needed to do right here as far as wrapping up. They ran a basic plays. They ran a zone read and ran it right off a tackle. And we actually had a ninth grader that should have been fitting in that gap. But, again, we just had to make sure that we stayed in position to do the things that we needed to do. Right there you see we got a tackle for a loss. And on that particular play, you saw the linebacker, outside linebacker, went inside. And he gave up the edge, and that cost us a big play right there. So, just a couple of small things that we missed out on occasion. And but when we needed to down on the goal line, we had some pretty good stands. Right here we gave up a touchdown here, and they went up on us 14-7, and we had an opportunity to get back in it. And right there you see Khalil Peoples, number 51. He's a ninth grader, makes a big time play on the reverse. And we had an opportunity, but we just kind of, we were fortunate right here that we got a pass deflected, and we recovered it, and we had some time left on the clock. Trying to work it down our 2-minute drill and no huddle and all. We didn't have any timeouts, and we kind of got in a situation where we just didn't take care of the ball like we should have. Got 3 good completions right there. That was a completion to Rashard Harris right here, and we had an out and up pass right there. He was supposed to hit the guy on the outside, but we threw it across the middle and ended up getting an interception.
14-7 is your score at halftime, but Coach, from what I saw, like you talked about with the red zone defense, has been really solid this season, and with LJ's big tackle, it just seems that in so many spots in this game, you're playing it exactly the way you want to play it.
Right. We were able to put pressure on them. When teams run the zone read, they tend to block down and kick out one player and leave a linebacker in an ISO position. And
right.
That guy got to step down in the gap and close the space down to make that play. And with us having younger guys, we had a ninth grade linebacker, Caleb Jennings, who done an outstanding job to be a ninth grader, first time ever playing varsity. And sometimes we would leave space, and you get a experienced running back in the space. He a little bit more experienced. He know how to move and
right.
Create positive yardage. So
absolutely.
We had to correct that.
We always talk about at this point of the show expectations and adjustments. From what you saw on film, did that translate to what you saw in the first half?
Yes, it did. Just getting guys in certain gaps. My starting Mike linebacker, who's a senior, Quintavious Gordon. He was unable to go. He only played maybe 4 or 5 plays. So I actually had to take that ninth grade linebacker and put him at Mike linebacker.
Right.
So one of the biggest adjustments was making sure that the guys up front protected him, kept him covered up. He know how to read pretty well, but just a ninth grader, so we had to try to protect him.
Absolutely. Was Jacksonville's size something that caught you, maybe not off guard, but I mean you saw this team on film, but a thing that you saw and maybe were even a little bit more impressed with in person? Well,
the size really didn't surprise me. I actually see it in the running backs. The running backs were a little bit tougher than what I thought they were on film. A little bit faster than what I thought
right.
they were. They and pretty elusive, but again, you're talking about senior running backs, so that's experience on the team. Now, one thing surprised me about them the most was I didn't know they had 20-plus seniors. I thought they were maybe a little bit younger than that, but
right.
The running backs are pretty fast.
Absolutely. From the adjustments on your standpoint, it seemed to me that the game plan going in was working well on both sides of the ball.
Right. Well, main thing was to just keep the running backs in the box. We were not worried about the passing game too much. We wanted to stop the run.
And offensively?
And offensively, we just wanted to move the football. We wanted to get them spread it out and get some of our guys in space and just move the football.
Absolutely. When you have a game like this, in a situation like this, where it's a rivalry kind of game, you talked about it in the first segment, how you have two teams that know each other really well, and they're just down the road from each other, and they've been around different communities and whatnot with and against one another. Is the standpoint from a coach from you to bring it down? Is the energy up? How do you handle that pregame?
Well, the thing that I concentrated on my team was about not playing off emotion. We wanted to play with great energy. We wanted to play with intensity, but sometimes rivalry games tend to bring emotions involved, and you know, emotions run out. I tell anybody that plays sports, you know, you get, you know, the kids say you get hyped up, and you know, when you have that big letdown, you know, I guess you come down off it. It's hard to get back up, but when you play off of energy, you can maintain a certain energy level. You could actually increase an energy level, but it's hard to play off emotion, and I didn't want them to get caught up too much in the emotional side.
Right. Second half highlights, 14-7 was your score at halftime. Second half highlights coming up next on the Bulldog Blitz. Also the first road performance for the Anderson High School Marching Band. You'll hear their performance from Golden Eagle Stadium next, and we're back. We're back here on the Bulldog Blitz, second half highlights. Coach, talk about what you saw here in the third quarter.
Well, third quarter, you know, Jacksonville received the football, and we got a great kickoff, but I wasn't too pleased with the coverage. You know, I think we kind of tiptoed down, and right here we got out of position. We had an opportunity to hit the running back in the backfield, but we missed the tackle, and it ended up turning into a big game for them. And you know, they came right out, and I want to say in 3 plays, they moved the football down the field and ended up scoring on us. And, you know, we came back and got a block on the extra point there. So, you know, that, you know, talks about the fight that we have as a team, you know, so they didn't give it up. And we came back here, and I believe we got 3 downs and out, and we came back, and we just, you know, we missed the tackle right there. We had an opportunity to hit him in the backfield, but we sort of missed the tackle there. And, you know, just had a few things that we had to kind of clean up. But the defense, you can see they kind of bowled up right here. And especially inside the red zone right here, we created situations where we actually held them out right here. And we forced a fumble right there. Thought we had a fumble, but the officials reversed the call on us. And we got them back out, and they ended up scoring on that particular touchdown, and that was sort of I guess a situation where it opened it up for them right here. You see Jeremy Camps run the football pretty well right here, and started moving the football. Of course, right there, that's a 9th grader right there. That's J.B. Carlisle. We started him at fullback, so we started a lot of young guys to try to get them some experience to get in. You can see we were moving the football in situations right here. Once again, you see L.J. Hurd breaks a long one, the touchdown right here. And I believe we got that one, that touchdown right there. That was the one that counted, but we ended up, I think, making a long run again and getting it called back. Of course, you can see right here the defense swarming again. They ran a screen pass, and we had a back on the screen, but we just didn't wrap up on the screen pass like we should have. And, you know, of course, we fight, but we're not quite getting in the position that we need to get into right here. You can see right here we kind of swarmed to the football, made some pretty good plays, but we ended up giving up a field goal right here, which was a good win for the defense right here. You know, we sort of held them out, and came back here and got out of alignment again. I got an outside linebacker out too far, and Jacksonville ended up scoring on us again right here. So that sort of hurt us right there. That was a backbreaker right there.
37-14, your final score from Golden Eagle Stadium. One of the things that I saw, Coach, and you mentioned it too, was the red zone defense really stepped up, and then that play, it seemingly different sides saw different things as far as the way that ball crossed the goal line. But it seemed to me that overall, even after that moment and leading up to that moment, that this team had just so much fight and grit in it, both on the offensive side and the defensive side. And then LJ obviously had 2 big runs for touchdowns.
Well, they stayed positive about it. One thing we told them was just keep fighting. We couldn't control the calls that the official made, but we just have to keep fighting. Some calls going to go your way, some calls are not going to go your way, but still got to play the game. So we wanted them to focus on playing the game rather than that call.
Absolutely. Are there any things that you took away from your team after Friday night? Something that you maybe didn't realize after week 3 that you now realize here in week 4?
Well, just the fight they have in them, especially the younger guys. Like I said, we had 4 ninth graders starting, first time ever playing on the varsity level, and for them to fight the way they did, I was extremely proud of them, and especially against an undefeated team. You couldn't ask for any more.
Obviously, LJ Hurd had the 2 touchdowns in the game. Were there anybody else that had nice performances after you broke down some of the film?
Well, J.B. Carlisle, number 33, a freshman, we started him at fullback. He's tough as nails. He's going to be good. He played great, and, of course, Jeremy Cants had a couple of good runs, and we had a couple of quick passes to Jamari West, but L.J. Hurd played outstanding. He had 2 touchdowns, and then, of course, he had actually a long touchdown run that we got called back, for a hold. So, and he played a little defense for us too. So he played outstanding.
Absolutely. Moving forward, you're now going into the non-region game. Is there not necessarily a sense of? Is there a sense that it starts new? Like there's almost like a first half of the season and then a second season?
Well, we go in the Pale City game just basically looking to kind of clean up some things that, we've done in the first part of the season, try to get some people in position because we got some injuries, got my whole starting linebacking core that I had is out right now. So we got 3 new guys that are playing linebacker. And, you just want to get those guys some reps and kind of get them tuned up because, we start back after Pale City with White Plains. So, that's the second part of your region series. And we actually got a chance to do pretty well if we just can stay focused.
At the beginning of the season, nobody knows what the teams are going to be, but through the first 4 games, the combined record of Sylacauga, Asheville, Cherokee County, and Jacksonville is 13-5. So you've played some really strong opponents that have done well up to this point.
Well, they're great teams, but if you would asked me at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have thought that we would be 0-4 right now. A loss with your quarterback, and then you lose, 2 of your starting linebackers. It's just it kind of flips the script for your whole team. But you still got to play on, and we just got to work through it.
Absolutely. So now Anderson turns his attention to the region game, the non-region game against Pell City. They'll travel down I-20 to take on the Panthers. We'll talk about that game coming up next here on the Bulldog Blitz. Final segment here on the Bulldog Blitz. We will look ahead now to the non-region game against Pell City. First off, Coach, this just speaks to your philosophy of playing some of these tougher teams, some of these harder teams in the region and outside the region, knowing that make your team better. Talk about this game against Pell City.
Well, you're talking about a bigger school, a big team. They have great numbers, and of course, they just got Coach Etheridge from Leeds. So. You're talking about a good program, and we just have to step it up against them, But I believe if you want to be good, you have to play the best teams, and you either play up to their level or you'll lose, and you learn from it.
You've done this you do it in the spring game as well. The first game of the season, you've played teams like Hanley before. This year it's Sylacauga, and also you've played teams like Pell City. As you schedule these games and as you look ahead to the season, because all these things are done months and months and months in advance, you obviously can't know exactly where a team is going to be, like a team like Pell City with a new head coach. But you have to at least know some things about, hey, this team's either big or they're fast or they can help us out moving forward.
Well, just as you said, we hadn't played Pell City in quite some time, but you know they're going to be big. You know they're going to have numbers. So, you just basically I guess I gauge those teams based on some of the teams I played in the past. You know, it doesn't get any better than Carver Montgomery, who's ranked number 2 in the state when we played them. So, you know, I really feel like anything less than a Carver, you know, we give ourselves a chance, even though it's a larger school. So, you know, basically we just go into it approaching the game as if we were playing somebody like Carver.
Absolutely. I know at this point you haven't watched a ton of film on Pell City, but from what you've seen, maybe in and around that program, what are some of the things that you expect to see out of them Friday night?
Well, you know, they'll be well disciplined, you know, and have a huge line. They normally have big offensive linemen, and of course, you know, they when we played them in the past, they had a pretty good quarterback and a pretty good running back, you know, and then defensively they were pretty solid. You know, they, you know, had, you know, assignment, sound, pretty technique. So basically some of the same things, you know, you can expect out of a good team, you know. And then, of course, with the coach they got, you know, you can expect them to pretty much sort of have that together.
It's an interesting situation with Coach Etheridge. And Coach Etheridge was at Leeds, won a couple 4A state championships. I think won 3 or 4 4A state championships. When you go to break this team down, do you look at any Leeds video, or is it just kind of all what they've done at Pell City?
Well, they tend to do the same thing. You know, Coach just moved, and he tends to do the same thing. So we'll look at some of his old film to kind of get an idea of, you know, tendencies and what he like, and then, of course, we'll watch game film at Pell City and compare the two. But most of the time, the coaches generally do the same thing. You know, they don't change unless, you know, you have a drastic change in personnel, and then you have to kind of do some things to fit the personnel that you have.
Everybody's taking a break off of region play, and as we take a look at some of the region standings, for you as a coach, do you see this week kind of as a settling week where you now look to this is the median point before the backside of your schedule?
Well, it's just a tune-up for us. You know, we count in the lower end of the spectrum as far as the region. So we want to do the things that we can do to try to get better at what we're doing. You know, we're not out of it. You know, last year we went to the playoff with 4 wins, and I sincerely believe we're going to do the same thing again this year. Now, it's going to be tough. You know, we got 4 tough teams that we have to play, but I really give us a great chance at winning 4 games, you know, and we do. It's time for us to win a game, you know.
For some teams, seeing the standings and all that can get demoralizing, but we talked about the fight of this football team and the fact that nobody has punched a spot in the playoffs and nobody's out of the playoffs. Do you take that message to the team?
Right, and we, you know, basically the I guess, motivating factor for us is the fact that we've had possibly everything that can happen to a team happen. We've had, you know, you don't, no other team in the region has lost their starting quarterback and lost their entire linebacking core, and, you know, basically you're starting a group of 9th and 10th graders. So, you know, it can only get better for us, and you know, you don't want injuries or anything to happen, but if something were to happen to some of the other teams, you know, they would be in the situation we in the second half. So, you know, we think we got a chance here.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the team's fight through the adversity, knowing that the team that you put on the field at the beginning of the season is not the team now, and everybody's adjusting really to kind of new roles, new positions, and new leadership positions on the team.
Well, it's totally different. Like I said, I mean, anytime you lose that starting quarterback, that's the biggest blow because that's your captain. And then, you know, as you start losing guys that are in starting roles, you know, and major roles, it's basically like you're playing with a new team, and that's what we looking at now. Right now, we just told them, hey, new beginning, and we just gonna go from there.
Final question, we'll get you out of here. What are some of one thing, maybe 2 things that you want to see improve week to week from non-region week, coming out of region week into non-region week?
I want to see us do a better job at tackling and being a little bit more aggressive. And then offensively, I'm just waiting on the time that Jeremy McCants and L.J. Hurd, you know, 2 of the fastest guys, probably the fastest guys in the county, when we can put those 2 guys together and they have a game similar to what they had against Sylacauga. And I think once we do that, you know, we're going to be tough to deal with.
The Anderson Bulldogs travel down I-20 to Pete Rich Alumni Stadium to take on the Pell City Panthers. Head out there Friday night. We will recap it right here on the Bulldog Blitz. For Coach Eddie Bullock, I'm Gary Bathingani saying so long. We'll see you next week here on the Bulldog Blitz.